Elaine Gottschall's 4-year-old daughter developed colitis. The medical advice she could get was not solving the problem. They were, in fact, going to operate and remove part of her colon. So Elaine looked for answers. She found her answers in nutrition and dietary restrictions after she had talked to 15 doctors. After 2 years, her daughter's symptoms disappeared. The child never had surgery. The child is fine. Elaine Gottschall went back to university and got 2 degrees. And she ended up writing a book called Breaking the Vicious Cycle. This is a book that helps people, again, with Crohn's, colitis, diverticulitis, celiac, cystic fibrosis, chronic diarrhea. Please welcome the Elaine Gottschall. The bottom line in all of this is that these diseases, we have her every year. This is what I figure I've learned. Right. These diseases are related to some people's body have an inability to digest certain foods, which causes them terrible problems like Crohn's and colitis.
We don't know the causes. It's not really an inability that they have. They may have, take antibiotics, for example, and develop a mutated bacteria. And after they develop that, they get all kinds of horrible symptoms. It's called an imbalance. And because diet is not studied in medical school, because physicians really don't understand the biochemistry of it, they are not given the kind of help which they need to get over it. This should be used along with the doctors, and it was written to be an adjunct to medical care. But there are many reasons why people are getting these conditions. There's been a movement lately to get people off of natural foods such as eggs and lean meats and get them on starchy and sugary foods. And the body can't handle that. It's an overwhelming of carbohydrates that the body is not used to.
If people who have the problems that I've outlined go on this, and it's a diet, what will happen for them? Well, is this a cure?
Well, you have to be very careful when you use the word cure, because the mainstream opinion is that nothing is curable anymore. We can just manage the disease. But I can tell you, if you have a 35-year remission, I would call that a cure. And there are many people who have had remissions for 10 years, for 15 years. My own child, who's 47 now, has been perfectly well, thank God, for 35 years. So I think I'd call that a cure. You have to be very careful with a word like cure. Oh, you're a quack if you use it.
It is very interesting to me, having known Elaine for so long, that the response, and I've actually tried to help. I actually wrote a letter on Elaine's behalf to a doctor, and I said, all Elaine Gottschall wants to do in the hospital is to prepare the food for half of the people.
That have Crohn's, for example.
Yes, that have Crohn's, and you feed the other half the regular, and she'd like to do this for X amount of period. I got a letter back from this doctor who very politely told me to go myself, that they simply had no interest at all in checking this out. I've talked to doctors in a hospital.
Well, it's going to change.
Whoa, but you're going to Oxford to lecture. What happened here?
Well, first of all, the biggest guru in gastroenterology, and I'm not going to mention the location because he's known throughout the entire medical profession. I've been told he has turned out and trained 80,000 gastroenterologists. He's now 80 years old and he's going to retire soon. Guess who called me on the phone who's getting well? Has had Crohn's disease all his life, his son. So I'm very much involved in what's happening in the medical profession right now. They cannot keep this on.
The guru's son got sick.
Oh, he's been sick all his life.
And the son is now working with his?
So 3 days after getting on this diet, he had a normal bowel movement for the first time in his life. And he called me up. He's a retired doctor.
Wow.
He had to give up his practice. His father was the chief gastroenterologist that trains them. Wow. Now, a lot of things are happening. There isn't a leading hospital in North America that has not had, at least, to my knowledge, 3 to 4 people who were given up as incurable cases who are going to be operated on and who are now well. The woman who...
Through this?
Absolutely, through this. The drugs no longer work after a while. You see, the drugs are important. No one's saying you don't use drugs, but they don't work after a while.
When you go to Oxford University to lecture, who are you speaking to?
I'm speaking to the allergists and the clinical ecologists, and the reason they've invited me is that I've thought all along that many allergies start in the digestive tract. Now, I'm not talking about asthma. I'm not talking about a lot of the respiratory problems, but many other allergies, skin problems, you could just name them, start in the digestive tract. Well, the allergists have been working from another vantage point, and they have admitted that there are shortcomings, and through the years, many of them have used this along with allergy treatment, and they've gotten results. So I've had allergists writing for the book for years now.
I must tell you, it's been very interesting. The first time we had Elaine Gottschall on our show, she was having trouble selling her book, and after her appearance here, she sold 23,000. She has so far sold 500,000 around the world, and in London, England, because of her Oxford lectures, the London Daily Mail ran an article this week on this book. It is now being published in Denmark. You're on the internet for the world. Although you cannot, which I find such ridiculous, get recognition in your own country, the world is responding to you, and I'm so happy. You have saved so many people's lives. I filled this audience with people. You've done such a great job.
Well,
let me just say this. The last time Elaine was here, we had 30 or 40 people, and there was a little boy who was 9 years old or 10, and he said, remember about eight months earlier, he said he was on the couch crying, doubled up in pain, and he was sitting here with this big grin on his face.
I called him about 3 months ago, and it's almost a year that he's on the diet, and are you still on? I've forgotten his name, and he said, yes, bright young kid. I took him out to lunch before we came to your program, and guess what he ate for lunch? This terrible food. He had a T-bone steak, he had broccoli, you know, he hadn't grown in years. They get on this diet, these Crohn's patients, these little kids, and they haven't grown in years. And they sprout up 6 and 7 inches the first year. It's amazing. But he's still on. He's doing well. He's doing beautifully.
What age were you when you went back to university?
47. And I didn't go back, darling. I started as a freshman.
Oh, you started as a freshman. Excuse me. What 2 degrees did you get? You went to university at age 47?
I got my bachelor's, of course, my undergraduate degree.
Right.
And then I got a master's science degree in molecular biology because I really wanted the nitty-gritties of this. I had started as studying nutrition courses, and it was fine. The vitamins are very important. You have to learn about those.
Okay.
But then I learned what happens right on the cellular level.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. For those of you who have this problem, any of these problems, the book is called Breaking the Vicious Cycle. You can get it at health food stores. If you have a problem getting it, well, we're going to put up the 1-800 number. You can order it. But for the rest of us, because you know so much about this, who are, you know, because the world's got a bit nuts here about diet and stuff, what would you like to say to the rest of us who are fairly healthy about our eating habits?
Well, I would say that a lot of the information that you're getting, and the Globe and Mail in the last 3 days has run some information on this cholesterol myth. 3 days ago, a doctor from Vancouver called it insanity because the information, the education about diet is coming right from companies who have vested interests. So I would say that for people who are well, whatever they're eating, they have no problems, don't fix it if it's not broken.
Right.
But in fact, the Paleolithic diet, the caveman's diet, the fruits, the vegetables, the lean meats, the nuts, all those things are foods that we evolved for millions of years living on. And they are, although this book was not developed with that in mind, it is an actually Paleolithic diet. The creative part of the book is that when I was faced with no grains for my child, and I wanted to bake for her, I innovated the recipes that allowed us to have cookies and muffins and cakes. So it is really a Paleolithic diet, but it has all these lovely things that people have been accustomed to eat, and which we can make without grains, because you cannot have grains on this diet.
It's been such a pleasure to see you. I would like now to invite you to come back next year because we're going to focus on alternative health on a more regular basis. And I would really like you to come back and do some more. And I want to tell you that you are one of the women that I have met in all my interviews that I admire the most. I think you're quite amazing.
Well, so are you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elaine Gottschall, this is a book if you got the problem, okay? Breaking the Vicious Cycle. We'll be back in